4시 32분이 지나고 있습니다. 아침, 새벽. 영어신문을 좀 읽어서 뉴욕타임즈 스크랩을 많이 읽어서 빨리 보내야겠습니다. Water supply perils undercut promise of corn-powered jet. Without the irrigation, you just wouldn't have corn on this the farm. Advocate also say ethanol is in America's strategic interest because it reduces reliance on foreign oil and broaden the market for American farmers. Even the young get CTE. Their children had a love of football, but grieving parents are left to wonder, should they have let them play? It was their dream, and with dreams, you have to pay a price sometimes. Amid all the struggles by the young men and their families to try to fix what they could not explain, there came the worst possible news. We should have his brain donated. Today's athletes play in an era of heightened awareness of the dangers of concussion and of the cumulative effects of hits to the head. It is different than 20 years ago, when most research focused on the deceased NFL players, including Hall of Famers, whose lives had unraveled because of damage to their brain. Now families of young athletes who never came close to fame or fortune are approaching researchers, donating their children's brains in a desperate search for the answers. Would I let them play football again? Some families are haunted by regrets and what if. They want others to learn from their loss. But what is the lesson? For some answers are hard. Would I let him play football again? No. I probably should have just left him on the soccer field. What ties them all together is that their children are gone, and they don't wish that on anyone else. Control how much time your teens spend on YouTube. Family Link provide you with online safety settings for your family across the search, YouTube, and other Google apps. When coaching vision and star power collide. And there is another one, the one that is rooted to some extent in the traditional economics of sports, but has been exaggerated by the devotional nature of fandom in the digital age, that places individual stars at the front and center of a club. This theory has given them stars a heft and pull greater than the institution that make and pay them. From Democrat governors campaign tips for Biden. What if Trump is the nominee. What's the behavior pattern among the Harley, DeSantis, and Christie supporters? Where do they go? Mr. Murphy said, I find it hard to believe that the majority of them are going to the Trump. The problem is it's going to take us 20 years to build all this infrastructure out. Mr. Underwood said whether they see it within the next 11 months or not. That's what we needed to tell the story. A monthly roundup of a holiday film. Not all of these picks are family friendly. Watch the outliers after the kids are in bed. Air traffic controllers drunk and asleep on the job. A shortage of personnel has resulted in a workforce prone to the mistakes. Ever since the Reagan administration replaced thousands of striking controllers, the agency had struggled to keep pace with the waves of retirement. The problem grew worse during the COVID-19 pandemic and when the FAA slowed the training of new controllers. For the current fiscal year, the FAA sought $117 million to train controllers and hire 1,800 new ones. As Ray Smith had worked for more than a decade as a controller in the Atlanta area. From Trump critic to defender and back, while UN Ambassador Nikki Haley strove to stay in presidential favor. But even as she objected to Mr. Trump's approach toward Mr. Putin, she had excused it. In a book, she wrote that she understood why he seemed to let Mr. Putin off the hook in Helsinki. He was trying to keep communication open with Putin, just as he had with Kim Jong-un, and Chinese President Xi Jinping, she wrote, then went on to extol his ability to disarm people. Similarly, Ms. Haley suggested that Mr. Trump meant well when he praised Mr. Kim as a talented leader who loved his people, and that he just didn't understand how his words would be received. Ms. Harley addressed that kind of criticism in an essay in the Wall Street Journal in 2021. She wrote that Mr. Trump had been a good president but had gone astray, and said she could not depend on the indispensable. If that means I want to have it both ways, she added, so be it. A hunger for beauty and access, both. It's nice, capacious sentiment. Capacious. It's nice, capacious sentiment. Selected from New York Times. What it takes for Snoopy and friends soar in the Macy's parade. Since then, city officials have worked with Macy's to adopt more stringent safety measures, including requiring the balloons, which are held by handlers on the ground, to also be anchored to vehicles. When it is calm, the balloons are allowed to soar with lines extending up to 55 feet. The balloons themselves fly 10 to 15 feet above, but in high winds, like in 2019, they are reeled in. Expelled congressman find an income source. For $350, George Santos says hello and give advice on dealing with haters. 3 days after George Santos was expelled from the U.S. House of Representatives, he sat in front of a camera to address the American people. Well, a few American people, the ones willing to pay Mr. Santos, the former congressman who stand accused on federal fraud charges of stealing money from campaign donors for personal expenses, hundreds of dollars a pop on the video app at the Camel. Hey, Sarah, Mr. Santos said in one video, sometimes work sucks. I mean, let's talk about the better day, huh? Last Friday wasn't go great for me either. Who can take the joke? Books at the review. Comedy book, How Comedy Conquered Culture and the Magic That Makes It Work. Outrageous, A History of Showbiz and the culture of the woods. Like many of these subjects, Fox knows his way around a pointed one-liner. A roast might sound mean, but it's another way of saying I see you is one. If you are saying supposedly offensive things, and the audience is instantly all on board, it is not a comedy show. It's a rally, it's another. That such rigorous thinking should at one point lead him to depend on Adam Sandler. Poop joke. Poop joke is a great gag in itself. Poop joke. Poop joke. The American Standard Book Review. Becoming Ella Fitzgerald, the jazz singer who transformed the American song. Ella Fitzgerald was born in 1917 in Newport News, Virginia, but spent most of her childhood in a poor section of Yonkers, New York. Her father, a longshoreman, left the family when she was young. Her mother did the domestic work and toiled in a commercial laundry. Ella didn't make it past junior high. She worked briefly as a lookout for the brothel, and was arrested for the truancy. She spent the time in an institution for troubled youth. She later told a relative she had been molested as a girl. She thought she might become a dancer. what wealthy nation owe the warming world. Rich countries must bear responsibility for the climate crisis. As leaders around the world meet for the 28th time to address the climate crisis, this time in the United Arab Emirates, one of the world's largest oil producers, they needed to rethink this threat and some of the other central challenges of our time. Those other challenges included devastating losses of biodiversity and the plastic population so widespread it is now found on the world's tallest mountain, in its deepest ocean trench, and in our veins. In the long history of this planet, our current time, the human age known as the Anthropocene, is the post in which a single species will so rapidly reshape the future of Earth's climate and all the other conditions that make life as we know it livable. Deepest ocean trench. Elon Musk is making a giant mistake unless it's unlikely, but he might actually know what he's doing. At this point, the shares he owns in X are worth far less than he paid for them. Could the Democrats still take on Biden? In theory, a star might set up in the primary. Here's why it's unlikely. Logistically, it's impossible, said the team, a Democratic strategist who has worked for Hillary Clinton and Amy. Politically, it's a suicide mission. The Democratic anxiety that has swirled around President Biden for over a year has kicked into overdrive in recent weeks as his approval ratings have stayed stubbornly low and polls have shown the possibility of his losing to former President Donald J. Trump. The anxiety has crystallized into the one question, repeated like a drumbeat. Can some big-name Democrat challenge him, someone more prominent than Marianne Williamson or Dean Phillips? The answer, in theory, sure. In practice, the prospects are remote. There are several reasons for that, most of which boiled down to the difficulty of running a successful campaign against a sitting president in the state primaries. That is the first step toward the nomination, and doing so at this point, just 2 months before voting start, wouldn't be feasible anyway, making things still more difficult for the would-be challenger is that Mr. Biden remains relatively popular among Democratic voters. According to a recent New York Times Siena College poll, 79% of party voters in 6 battleground states somewhat or strongly approve of his performance, which doesn't leave a lot of room for another Democrat. Florida Governor take the fight to his rival's home state. Ron DeSantis make a case against Nikki Haley in South Carolina tour. After ignoring each other for much of the summer and the early fall, the two candidates now engage in near-daily attack. Could the Democrats still take on the Biden? Not the only one with an unruly party. Britain's conservatives are now close to mirror image of U.S. Republican. The new legislation declares that Rwanda is a safe country for asylum seekers, contradicting the court and evidence it received from the United Nations Refugee Agency, and stipulate that no court will have authority to block the transports. Unruly. Both parties are deeply divided, radicalized, and close to unmanageable for their embattled leaders. Unruly. Squid Game universe grows. Netflix ride is a success, but is the original bleak message being diluted? On the same sound stage where Bob Barker loaded over The Price is Right, Squid Game is coming to life. On Wednesday, Netflix will unveil its latest live experience based on the dystopian hit show in which desperate South Koreans competed in a brutal contest of simple schoolyard game for the prize of 45 billion won, around $38 million. Dystopian. Is climate talks leader using summit to push oil leaked document outlined ways for UAE executive to promote fossil fuels. At this point, we might as well meet inside an actual oil refinery. Investors was much more than Warren Buffett's number two. I'd rather be one of our rich and interesting clients than be their lawyer. Charles T. Munger, who quit a well-established law career to be Warren E. Buffett's partner, and Maxim spouting alter ego as they transformed the foundering New England textile company into the spectacularly successful investment firm Berkshire Hathaway, died on Tuesday in Santa Barbara, California. He was 99. His death at a hospital was announced by Berkshire Hathaway. He had a home in Los Angeles. Although overshadowed by Mr. Buffett, who relished the spotlight, Mr. Munger, a billionaire in his own right, Forbes listed his fortune at $2.6 billion this year, had far more influence at Berkshire than his title of vice chairman suggested. Mr. Buffett has described him as the originator of Berkshire Hathaway's investing approach. Time to fix a dangerous U.S. law. The Insurrection Act's flaws could be terrifyingly abused if Trump returns to office. There is a landmine embedded in the United States Code, one that Donald Trump, if re-elected president, could use to destroy the republic. But it's not too late for Congress to defuse the mine now and protect America. I'm talking about the Insurrection Act, a federal law that permits the president to deploy military troops in American communities to effectively act as a domestic police force under his direct command. In theory, there is a need for a well-drafted law that permits the use of federal troops in extreme circumstances to maintain order and protect the rule of law.